On this episode of Firepower, take aim with the U.S. Navy's big gun, the Iowa-class battleship. Launch the air attack on Iraq with shells weighing a ton. Mothballed after World War II, this armored veteran has emerged from retirement an expert marksman with Tomahawk and Harpoon missiles, robot target spotters, and the rapid-fire Sea Whiz missile killer. It's the return of the Guardian gunboat on Battleship.
The aircraft carrier. The battleship's power came from its big After the war, most battleships were scrapped. Others became floating museums, and a few of the most modern were mothballed. When the Korean War broke out in 1950, the Navy quickly brought its newest battleships, the Iowas, out of mothballs. They fought again with distinction. Dogged by their high cost of operation, the Navy could ill afford the battleships in peacetime. But when war broke out, the Navy always knew where to find them. This was the case again during the Vietnam War. The defense buildup of the Reagan years revived interest in the battleships. By the 1980s, the high cost of shipbuilding meant that a battleship could be refurbished at a much lower cost than building a much smaller new warship, such as a destroyer.
The modernization of a battleship is a relatively simple thing to do at a very modest cost. So the modernization aspect of a destroyer or a small cruiser, as compared to what you might achieve in a battleship, is really not a good comparison. The characteristic that the battleship brings to the naval balance is enormous survivability and enormous destructive power within its gun range, supported by a very large support capability of the ships that would be a part of the battle group that a battleship constituted. And when you put that all together, you can't find that resident in any other kind of ship today, save the aircraft carriers. The battleships, although in chronological age, are perhaps old ships. But first of all, one needs to recognize that the age of a ship is more tied to the number of years it is being used than it is in total number of years that it has been built or in existence. So for the 30 years that it was mothballed, the aging of the ship was relatively slow compared to what it would be if you were continually using it. So set aside age to some degree. In the modernization, we looked to provide what was available in terms of new missile systems, particularly as it related to surface-to-surface engagement capabilities that were existent at the time the ship was being recommissioned. Internally, we have improved its command and control systems in order to sail with the modern battleship battle group that it was envisioned to sail with. Modern destroyers, modern cruisers, so they were all compatible in information exchange and support of various naval operations, be they in the open ocean or in the littorals of countries such as we found in the Persian Gulf.
Once again, the Iowa-class battleships re-entered Navy service, training a new generation of sailors on the naval equipment first used a generation before. The battleship in the late 1980s was to form the center of a naval battle group in place of an aircraft carrier. Its new peacetime role was to show the flag in hot spots around the globe, where its old-fashioned armor made it nearly impervious to the new threats posed by advanced naval mines and anti-ship missiles.
Certainly when you go into a port, everybody looks at you and they know exactly what your business is. Nobody ever mistook a battleship for anything other than a battleship. Its guns, it bristles, it looks impressive. It's the perfect ship to show the flag wherever you go.
The battleship's unique role in the U.S. Navy centers around two key features: its thick belts of armor and its massive firepower.
I think the battleship story is pretty much focused on the 16-inch guns. People have always been enamored by them. Their presence is awesome, and their firepower is equally impressive. And the armor plate, survivability of this ship makes it a very unique platform for strike warfare. Tomahawk technology, which was amply demonstrated throughout the Persian Gulf crisis, proves that the decision to bring these ships back was vindicated.
Other ships have Tomahawk and Harpoon missiles, but only one class of ships has the 16-inch guns. These are the largest and most powerful weapons of their type ever deployed on an American warship.
The 16-inch guns is a long-range naval gun. No other gun in the Navy can shoot as far as it can. We have the ability to send such a large amount of ordnance downrange. We like to go for heavy dug-in emplacements, and we're doing shore bombardment. We're good against armor because of the high explosive capabilities. For the 5-inch gun, you know, it's shorter range, it's a lot lighter projectile. You can't put as much ordnance on the target. Originally, these guns were designed to engage other battleships. So we have the capability of shooting a 2,700-pound armor-piercing projectile, which can be quite devastating. I don't think that there's any ship on the high seas now that could withstand a hit from a 16-inch armor-piercing.
On first glance, the 16-inch guns seem quite small in proportion to the rest of the ship. But the bulk of these massive gun turrets is largely hidden. They extend as tall as a 4-story building deep into the bowels of the ship. The turret systems are a maze of ammunition handling equipment, ammunition elevators, and precision traverse equipment. The ammunition, weighing over a ton, must be mechanically loaded. But the heavy firepower of the 16-inch guns is only part of the story. The incredible accuracy of the weapons is the other part. The problem is to deliver a 2,000-pound projectile to targets 25 miles from a moving ship that is rocking and rolling. A heavy ocean swell can lift the battleship enough to throw off its aim. One of the most remarkable accomplishments in the design of the Iowa-class battleships was its fire control system. Gyroscopes help determine every movement of the ship in relation to the target and feed the data to a mechanical fire control computer. Since World War I, fine adjustments to aim were made by forward observers or spotter aircraft flown from catapults in the rear of the battleship. One of the innovations on the refurbished battleships was the substitution of unmanned, remotely piloted vehicles called RPVs in place of the manned spotting aircraft.
The RPV as a system that's been at sea since approximately 1986 and probably was used most effectively in the last two years. Wisconsin first had our RPV detachment come on board and work up in the June time frame, worked together as a team and deployed in August. We carried 5 air vehicles. The air vehicles have a wingspan of about 14 feet. They use a 2-cycle engine, rather loud, and carry about 40 liters of fuel. She can operate effectively out in excess of 70 miles. But the best part is she can provide real-time data back to the ship and remain essentially undetected. We operated with the RPV over hostile territory, and we're virtually undetected. And that provides a great capability for our 16-inch guns. The RPV can be used for reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, targeting, spotting. It provides a great extension of Wisconsin's capabilities. And the key is that real-time data link, day or night.
The RPVs feed a television signal back to the warship, allowing the fire control crew to precisely see where their projectiles have fallen. Corrections can then be made to put the next rounds precisely on target. The 16 inches are not the only guns on the battleship. There are also 5-inch guns, which supplement the firepower of the main gun turrets. The 4 Iowa-class battleships in the 1980s allowed the Navy to incorporate many new innovations in the ship. One of the most significant changes in its firepower was the addition of 2 new types of missile, the Tomahawk long-range cruise missile and the Harpoon medium-range anti-ship missile.
The battleship, the change in its role from the 50s to the way it is now is its ability to deliver that strike warfare punch with the Tomahawk missile. The Harpoon missile is also extremely capable in the anti-ship role. Our ability to project power well over the horizon has been radically changed been revolutionized by the Harpoon and the Tomahawk weapon system. Back in the 50s, that may have been on the drawing boards or it may have been just a dream, but now with the Harpoons up here and the Tomahawk behind me, that's Tomahawk weapon system provides battle group commander with a capability to strike targets far inland. In the past, that was aircraft were used to do that. Now you can use a missile. It's cheaper than an airplane and a pilot. It's unmanned, so you don't have the possibility of a downed pilot and a political situation where a hostage is involved. They're very accurate. They're impervious to incoming air defenses, as long as they don't hit you. They're not afraid. It's an unmanned robot. It's a flying bomb. And it gives the battle group commander the added punch of a strike capability without the hazards that are involved in flying an aircraft into enemy defenses.
The new missiles are hardly evident on so massive a vessel as the Battleship. The Tomahawk missiles are contained in special launchers called ABLs, or Armored Box Launchers. Each of these self-contained units encloses 4 Tomahawk missiles and protects the missile until launch from the hard sea environment. Another important change in the battleship's armament is its new air defense weapons. In World War II, the battleship was protected from aircraft by dozens of automatic cannon. These weapons required hundreds of crewmen, one of the reasons for the battleship's high operating costs. The threat to battleships today comes not so much from aircraft, but from anti-ship missiles. To protect against the missile threat, the battleships were fitted with a new weapon system called CIWS.
The battleship carries 4 close-in weapon systems, or CIWS, and it's a rapid-fire machine gun, basically, like a Gatling gun. There are 6 barrels, and the magazine holds in excess of 1,500 rounds, and it's designed to throw out a wall of lead, if you will, against an incoming missile. It has a hard bullet, 20-millimeter bullet, and it's designed to penetrate the warhead of an incoming missile and detonate it away from the ship. It's a close-in, last-ditch self-defense weapon. You can't defend any other ships with it. We carry 4 on board.
These sophisticated new missiles and radar-directed guns are controlled from deep within the ship. The battleship's new Combat Information Center bears very little resemblance to the methods of command in World War II. These computer nerve centers gather data from the ship's own sensors, neighboring ships, and even satellites to provide the captain with an up-to-the-minute picture of opposing forces. In World War II, the Iowa class were called fast battleships. One of their prime requirements was high cruising speed to find and attack the enemy first. This feature would prove useful again in 1990 in a new theater of the world. With the invasion of Kuwait in August 1990, the United States needed a military presence in the Gulf to warn Saddam Hussein from advancing any further. A 50-year-old warship may seem an odd choice to carry out Navy missions in the missile age, but the Wisconsin and her sister ships demonstrated the versatility of this classic design. The Wisconsin entered the history books yet again in January 1991, spearheading the air attack of Iraq. From her deck, Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched to clear a path for the strike aircraft that would follow. Salvo after salvo of Tomahawk missiles left the Wisconsin's launches for pinpoint strikes hundreds of miles away against key Iraqi targets. Nor were Wisconsin's guns silent for long. When the land attack into Kuwait began, the Wisconsin was able to provide pinpoint fire support against Iraqi field fortifications and other hard targets. Later in 1991, with the Gulf War over, the battleships again were slated for the mothballs. Peacetime economic pressures, not enemy weapons, have long been their most potent nemesis. Idle yet again, these imposing masters of the sea await another time of crisis when the call will ring out for the return of the battleships.
Thursday nights on the Discovery Channel, World War II's most legendary pilots recalling their exploits, the crucial battles, the near disasters. Join them each week on Hunters in the Sky at 8 Eastern.